welcome back to the Musicology Minimal House tutorial. This one being for drums. First thing we're going to do is save our project. So we're going to go to File, Save, go to the desktop, go to the Minimal House folder, create a new folder, and we're going to call this My Project. We still need to actually create a project name, so once we're in that folder, we're now going to call it Minimal Drums, because this is what we're going to be working on in this part of the tuition. You can toggle between the two different views here. One of them is the clip view and the other one is arrangement. We're going to work in the arrangement view. So on this view now, I'm just playing around with the locators here. This is the sort of loop between the points and where things are going to play between. We're going to add a shortcut, so click on Add Folder, navigate to the desktop and to the loops and samples, and then click to add that. You can see the samples as shown. This is where we're going to be dragging our samples in a second into our drum rack. When you start Ableton, it comes with 2 audio tracks and 2 MIDI tracks preset up. So we're just going to delete those by clicking on them on the right hand side and then hitting delete or backspace just to remove those to start with a nice blank canvas. It will leave one audio track left. We're going to go Create and MIDI track. Then from Instruments, we're going to select Drum Rack and drag it down into the area shown below. Now we're going to add the drums one by one, as you can see, starting with the kick, then the clap, and then the remaining drums. The order to do it in is drag the kick, followed by the clap, followed by the hi-hat, hi-hat 1, sorry, followed by hi-hat 2, followed by hi-hat 3, perk 1, perk 2, perk 3, perk 4. And if you didn't see where we selected them from, this was from the shortcut that we created earlier. We're going to save our drum rack now. So clicking on that button, then once that's clicked, you'll now see that we can rename the drum rack that's underneath the drum rack. We're going to call it Minimal Drum Kit. Now we're going to create another MIDI track, and if you go to Instruments, you'll now see when you click down on the arrow, we've got our kit saved and ready to use again, and this will be a mirror image of the one that we were using before. We're going to create another one of those, again create MIDI track and then drag the drum rack down into that area below. To create a MIDI area or a MIDI clip, you highlight the area between the locators and click Insert MIDI Clip. When you have this headphone button enabled, it means that you're going to hear the samples as you click on the notes. If you're using a MIDI keyboard, this would also come through as well, but you do need to select an additional button, which we'll show you later in the tutorials. So now we've got our MIDI clip enabled. The little box in the corner is the pencil tool. It means we're actually going to be able to draw things into this MIDI area. This means that when we write these little boxes in, that means that the samples are going to play in the places that we draw them. Now that we've drawn some of those in, we're going to do a Control D, which is going to duplicate the parts 4 times. And then when we highlight over them, then right click and select Consolidate, it's going to turn them all into one part. Now we're going to just do a bit of housekeeping. We're going to rename as so to kick. It's good to rename your parts, it just keeps you aware of where things are and nice and organised. Now we're going to go down to our drum rack, the second one that we created. Again, insert a MIDI clip as we did before, dragging a highlighted area and clicking Insert MIDI Clip. But in here we're going to be adding the clap. So we're going to be putting that in the places shown below. Again, we're in our draw mode with the little pencil tool. And you can see where we're writing those in. You can write them wherever you want, but this is to create the same track that we've shown in the tutorials. So now that's completed, we're now going to rename that to clap. On our third drum rack here, we're going to add some hi-hats. Again, inserting a MIDI clip. This one's slightly more complex. I'm just going to give it a rename again. This one's going to be our closed hat. Now this is selected, double click on it. This then brings you your drum rack again, and from here we're going to draw some notes in. Keep an eye on where we're drawing the notes. It's quite specific and really important to get the same sort of feel as the track that we've created. But as we say, do your own thing with it. Now, to highlight these together, which is what we're going to need to do, we're going to need to turn the pencil tool off. Once the pencil tool's turned off, you can now left click and hold the left click down and drag across the notes. And while that left click is held down, that means you're going to select them all, and that's going to allow us to do our next part. So you press Control, and we're going to just drag them across slightly, and you can see it's in exactly the same place but in the middle of each one. So with all these selected, and it's important that they are all selected like they are at the minute, we can now change the velocity, which is what we're doing, dragging the little sliders at the bottom, and it's changing all the in-between notes, which creates like a live drummer kind of feel, and is very good for working in the clubs. That's done. So we're just going to minimize these boxes with the triangles. Again, a little bit of housekeeping. Now we're going to press Control D again on these highlighted areas, which will again duplicate the parts out, to then consolidate them into single parts like we have with the kick. We just highlight that area all the way along, and then we consolidate, and do the same for the one above. That's all consolidated. Nice clean single parts, which are going to be great for arranging with later on, rather than pulling lots of different pieces about. Okay, so now we're going to play with loops. So we've got our audio track at the top, and in the browser on the left, as long as that headphone button is selected, that means that you're going to be able to hear what's auditioning through from the loop browser on the left hand side, and it will play with the project. So for this, we want to add in our hat one. So as you can see, we've selected it, we can hear it, sounds good. We're going to drag that in. Okay, great. You can see it by zooming in a little bit, as I've just done. We're also going to put the hat 2 in, but to do this we'll need to add another audio track. So to do this, create and insert audio track. Now we've got a blank area, we just drag the hat into it. Now you can see that we still need to extend some of the other parts. So what we would do is, again, highlight them where selected, Control D, and then what we're going to do actually is we're going to consolidate again, but we're going to do it on all of those parts together. So that's all 3 highlighted, right click or secondary click and consolidate. When I say Control D, if you're a Mac user, it would be Command D. Now we're going to do a little bit more housekeeping. Again, renaming our parts just so they're clear. This one's going to be called Hat 1. And for the second one, we're going to call that hat 2. Very importantly, we need to save the project. So we're going to go to File, Save Live Set As. If you haven't already saved it, do it now. Or just click Save Live Set if you did it at the beginning of the tutorial, and that will just save the work that you've done for later. And that's it, minimal drums, done.